Welcome to the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears. If you're new to the channel, we talk about 8 different areas of maturity and specific ways of relating life to those areas of maturity, or frame your reality or frame the things that you go through in life and your interactions with other people in those 8 different areas. And it changes the way that you experience people. Because if you see an area of somebody's maturity be, let's say, how an 8-year-old would deal with the world or whatever, give it 8 years old, we'll stay with that one. If you see that, well, if you're interacting with an 8-year-old and you're an adult, you typically don't hold a significant negative on an 8-year-old for the way that they're behaving if they're acting 8 years old, which we would say a maturity of an 8-year-old. But what if they stop developing there? What if somebody had, and almost certainly this is what's happened, they lost guidance in some part of their development and they're stuck. If they get embarrassed, if they feel harmed by that moment, things like that, they can hide it, they can avoid it. They don't do anything to develop in it, or they do the best they can to avoid growth in it because it's a traumatic experience to them, whether that traumatic experience is just being abandoned, or if it was something else was conflated with it, or maybe it was some sort of trauma that was, some physical, whatever, who knows. I don't want to over speculate, but just want to frame it enough that it holds a value to you. So you could say, hey, I get it. I understand why you're being an asshole here at, the local coffee shop, or standing in line at the grocery store, or whatever, and you're acting like a child. Well, there can be that. And the adult acceptable behavior has been thinned out too far because stress thins the layer between what we know is supposed to be the way we behave in society and then how we've actually hit our developmental threshold that's most needed in that moment. So, we do have an insulating barrier. A lot of us do. And then as we get challenged, we develop frustration, things like that, and it wears that insulation barrier, if you will, the socially acceptable barrier. It thins it out to the point that immaturity is able to come up and to be acknowledged by others by the outburst, the behavior that shows up being that way. It doesn't have to be an aggressive negative. It can also be somebody just being insanely playful, but it exactly looks like somebody who's, 8, 10 years old, something like that. You're like, that really it's kind of uncomfortable to watch an adult behave that way. That doesn't mean don't be childlike in your play, but to be childish in your play it's a different thing. So when you're looking at people that way, the Maturity Project helps you get a better way of seeing people in that way, if you will, to say better. It gives you more ability in looking at people that way so that you don't have this horrible negative. You don't pick up the psychic stress, where it's weighing on you and the people you interact with. You're kind of like divvying out little bits of frustration because perhaps you've withdrawn somewhat. Like for me, I'm a pretty jovial person, pretty joyful most of the time. Playful, engaging. Charm is one of my skill sets, or strengths in a skill set. Not as a brag, it's just a development direction that I kind of went down and didn't realize I chose it. It's just how I've developed. And if I'm stressed out, I've got those challenges that I've accepted by somebody else's outburst or reactions to something in the environment I'm in or directly to me, then I may withdraw a little. And then when somebody interacts with me, they're like, what's wrong? If they're familiar with me. So my own insulated barrier is starting to thin out a little. Now, for me, I actually appreciate that because it helps me understand, hey, there's more work here, Chad. You got to get to work. Because I don't like to blame others for what I go through in life. I prefer to look at the things that I go through in life and say, thank you for the lesson, than to say, you've harmed me. Sure, harm can still happen, but I take on I'm going to grow from this, because if I put the responsibility on them, they're not going to, I can't really grow very well aside from maybe I just strengthen my ability to blame other people, and maybe strengthen my ability to enroll other people in the stories, because I learn how to be dramatic about enrollment in people with, or enrollment with people in those types of situations. I choose not to. I don't want that in my life, because I don't want to disarm myself for the lessons that I've gone through. So when I interact with somebody and they do something like that, I typically will look at it and be like, I get it. I get it. You might need a hug. No, I'm not going to go like, hey, you're upset at me, let me hug you, But I just kind of like, I look at them like, I hope somebody that you love hugs you today. I hope that somebody you love validates who you are today in a way that levels off this particular moment of upset. I don't want to take that elsewhere. That's that psychic, emotional, experiential challenge that we'll deal with. And it's where you spread, because they say misery loves company. Well, I'm talking about that fact, right? Well, we look at people's ability to be stable to what we expect them to be stable by, based off the way that they look at their age, right? So like me being 45, if I acted like I was 20, you would feel like there's a problem here, especially if I acted with more of the stereotypical 20-something behaviors. So now, today's Christmas. It's a wonderful day to be present with people in your life. This day also comes with a specific degree of expectations, right? Like family be with you, family behave a certain way when they're with you. You have your celebration structures that we do during our holidays, and then there's the behavior that we have everyone expected to have when they're there. We may expect one person in our family to be, kind of abrasive, and other members to be very loving and supporting. We come up with a lot, we get trained into a lot of these things, but we still have, if you were to look at it and borrow this from Jordan Peterson, maps of meaning. Well, maps of meaning it's actually how we get to certain places by the way that we understand things like biblical teachings, things like that. But that's what celebrations are. They come from something, and there's a reason for that. There's something sacred about a celebration that is breaking the standard day and making it a special day. So we have a framework that we use to hold that day in place, that we say, okay, well, if Christmas is denoted by gift giving and family and some, carrying tradition on, then we can look at, okay, well, other people are also sharing in this experience, and they have very similar viewpoints. Especially like with Christmas, it's a Christian holiday. Now, it is also shared with other religions, like it's pagans and things like that, but it's not called Christmas for them. Though the winter solstice, things like that, also crosses with, you have a timeline where it's similar timeline, but not the exact same day, with Hanukkah and those kind of things. So what you do is you have a radar, if you will, like this big map, if you can imagine that. And then you have a specific degree of people, like the people that are going to celebrate these holidays, they're going to have the way they celebrate the holiday. And if they're at least fairly open, they will look at other holidays and other religious observations and say, okay, well, there's similarities in this way, differences in this way. And now you actually have something more cohesive, usually, and that's the more desirable. The more mature directions to be more cohesive, because it creates more of a bonding and more strength for our species, because we're communal, and that's one of the purposes of maturity, is to strengthen self, which means also strengthen community, in the sense of experience has taught lessons. Therefore, we now have something more functional, and function and strength to be similar, if you will, or actually you can use this kind of interchangeable. So I'm saying all of this because, look, let's have some framework to a different way of thinking about the holidays. Instead of going, well, I didn't get the gifts that I wanted, there's going to be reasons you didn't get what you wanted. Sometimes that's a communication failure. Sometimes Santa just didn't have you on that list. There's a lot of reasons why that happens. But if you want to make something different, look into yourself about it. Now, I'm not telling you to learn how to manipulate people better or demand something. And, by the way, if you force somebody to give you something, that's also still a manipulation. It's usually called something else. You made me do it. That kind of thing. Change it. Because when you do that, you're creating a victim of yourself and you're not getting the opportunity for the lesson. And maturing oneself is a very desirable direction because it makes you more capable of dealing with life's challenges and the environment that you're in. If you want to be a better business person, be more present in your interactions with other people. And then there's going to be a set of values that you have to be attentive to so that you can develop in those areas to become a better business person. It's not, I'm going to be a better business person, and that's just the category, and you don't have any detailed values. You just say, okay, categorically, I'm going to do that, but you don't have anything under it. There's no structure, there's no strategy. It's just going around telling yourself you're going to be a better business person. Now, same thing goes for any aspect of our life when we want to develop ourselves into something. It's not a category, it is a category plus. And when you put that in a frame of thinking, you can do something with it versus sitting around and going, I don't know why my life doesn't change. Just because you show up to work regularly in the business sense, you show up to work regularly, if you're not breaking patterns that you've done for a long time, that you believe those patterns are all that it takes in order to be successful, but yet you're not successful, you're missing gears in that transmission, and you're only going to be able to hit the gears, the gears that you're familiar with. You're not going to be able to get the ones beyond above that. So you need to have the understanding of the differences inside of that category so you can do something with it. If you want better relationships, well, you don't just make a declaration as if it's some sort of magical incantation, and all of a sudden now it happens. You have to start understanding what it takes to create a healthy and valuable relationship. If you want to have, a better physical fitness, better health, all of those things are not just a category. There's a lot that's in there. You have to put the attention to the details, because the details, if you don't have them, you need to develop them. If you don't develop them, it's a wishful direction. This is also the same thing. Like, I'm in the fitness industry. I've been in the fitness industry for most of my life. And I will tell you, it's actually more of my adult life than anything else. And I will tell you this, just because you want something and you do the basics does not mean you're going to achieve it, especially if you don't even do all of the basics. You just do some of the basics. I joined the gym, I should have lost weight. I got on the treadmill, I should have lost weight, or whatever the cardio piece of equipment is. I jumped on a couple pieces of equipment, I should have lost weight. If you don't know the details necessary to be successful at that, you're not going to do very well. You'll have degrees of success and then you'll stop. Your body will plateau out. It's because the details, right? They say the devil's in the details. Well, that's if you're talking about the regret concepts. I regret it wasn't successful, the deal with the devil concepts, those kind of things. I didn't realize what I was asking for. That's usually what the devil's in the details is usually referenced as. But, it is the details that truly do matter. And the details are significant, right? A holistic education, that's the direction that I decided to go in a long time ago. And it taught me a lot more than just, lose weight, build muscle, sweat. How long did you do it for? Tempo base, what machines did you use? What muscle groupings were involved? Things like that. It exceeded that. It's not just about macros and calories, micros and phytos are involved, stress levels, your sleep, your interaction, engagement with other people, your relationship with yourself. And there is so many values that are in that. That's typically why you hire a professional, because they study that and then they can provide that to you if you're working with them. Not just, oh yeah, it's easy, it's simple. Nothing in life really is easy and simple. Well, I guess if you look at it like you learn the maturity project and the 8 different areas, it becomes easy and simple because you understand the structure that things really work by. This is a developing education. So thank you for your patience with that. And also thank you for your patience with this video. We're failing up and we're failing forward. So I wanted to put out a video today to at least say, hey, while you're with your family, the details are what matters. Right? If your expectation is you should have got something, or somebody should be there, or somebody should be behaving a certain way, and if it's not the way you wanted it to be, therefore now it's a failure, or there's a red mark on the day, and that, look at them the same as you would look at the age of the individual that is represented by their behavior, not by the chronological age that you know them to be. And it will lessen the stress, which therefore will open the potential for more bonding. Because the more stress you have between you and another person, the less bonding you typically have. And the greater the story is, so the harder the bonding can be, because you're going to be in your head about having that conversation. And if you're both in your head about having that conversation, typically that's where these big clashes happen, where you can't really talk things out because you already hear this preparation of communication, which is an argument they've had now for however long, but they can't even hear you. They're just unloading the argument on you, and you're doing the same to them. It's very hard to love who you're talking to when that's happening, because you're unloading those stresses and you just have to get it out. That's where these fights typically come from, when you see that level of upset. There's no resolution in it. And the longer you sit without resolution, the longer the argument or the upsets that it consists, then the more likely it's going to be a pretty heavy fight. It doesn't have to be. You can overcome that. And that's why the Maturity Project is one of the reasons why it come to be, is that we don't have to have that as an outcome. I get in my head too about my conversations with people. And when I catch it, it actually is kind of a feel good for me, because then I'm like, all right, well, do you want them to do this to you? Even if they are, do you want them to? How are you going to overcome it? Because if I'm right in my head right now, and I'm a pretty good person, I'm pretty good at arguing, is my timeline that I spent atheism. I learned how to argue pretty well. And also my time with my family as a young man, being one of 6 boys. But, I choose to not strengthen my ability to argue, because every time I would argue with people in that way, I wasn't trying to communicate, I was trying to argue. It was so that I could prove to them I was right. And it didn't matter what information they wanted to put in it. It was just, you came into my world and I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm ready to beat you down with this information because I got to show you I'm right. We don't have to do that to people in our life anymore. But this is common. So if we want to break that pattern and truly have that look back sense of fulfillment, when we can say, hey man, we've had a lot of wonderful years. We've really felt love together. We've grown through a lot. You're going to have to do something different. And there's people out there that have families, they don't do that. Or those families hide it really well. But either way, it doesn't matter what other people are doing. It matters what you're doing, because it's about your life. Because on those final days when we're in our bed, if you're that lucky to die in your bed, those final days, whenever life is no longer a choice, it's the end, you're going to look back and you're going to chronicle your life. You're going to look back and think about all the things you've done and what regrets you have, things like that. How fulfilled are you at that stage, and how many lives did you actually make a difference in? Because that's typically one of the values that are most common in the more successful experiences of life, is how many lives did you make a better, desirable outcome with. So we just get caught up in all this stuff, and before you know it, it's over. We don't have to, though. We can be proactive. We can still enjoy the richness of life. We can spend our Christmas with our family, or whatever religious holiday you're going to observe or that you do observe. And you can grow together, because you grow through what you go through, right? That's one of our mottos. And yesterday's mistakes, which we all make them, give us opportunity for tomorrow's success. It's a choice to find success after a mistake, or you can hide from it, or you can repeat the mistake. Which typically, if you hide from it, you're going to repeat it anyway. If you survive through it, you're likely going to repeat it as well. But if you thrive through it, you're likely going to have a position you could actually help pull other people out of the muck of the mistake as well. Give them guidance, if nothing else. So, or just give them the forgiveness of patience, because it's a beautiful thing. All right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for your patience with this video. It's Christmas. My team and I, we thank you. We all appreciate you guys being a part of this, and for everybody that joins to subscribe, just know we're growing. We're still finding ourselves in this. The education is the education, and it's developing, but it's still going to stay consistent. It's finding ourselves in the process so that we have the best quality product that we're putting out there, so that you guys can have the best experiences as you're growing through it, so that we have fewer rejections on the early end, and we have more long-term completing the videos and things like that. because those individuals are more likely to experience change in their life versus the ones that just watch a few minutes and stop. It's a process, you know. So comment in the comment section. Tell me what you got out of today's video and what you're grateful for. We're coming to the end of the year. Let's throw out some stuff that we're grateful for. You know, why not? Look, I'm not a granola eating hippie warrior guy. You know, I'm just kind of the average guy that's, you know, like down the neighborhood. You know, I get quiet at times like anybody else. But whenever I do engage, I'd rather talk about something meaningful, though. And find other people in your life that's like that as well. We're all on our own journey, but what can we learn from those that we connect with? And the goal with this is, look, I just want to be able to give people something better about their life than what they think they're convicted by. Using maturity in a different context, instead of just saying maturity is, you know, what happens as we get older and we lose the childish or the childlike. It's actually the childlike. The childish is the negative. The childlike is the desirable. Losing the childlikeness of life. No, you don't do that when you mature. You lose the insecurities that hinder your ability to enjoy the childlike experiences, or the really being engaged in the experience is really what a lot of children exhibit, is the engagement without the insecurity. We want to keep that. Why not? So, all right. Well, thank you for watching the video. Merry Christmas to all of you. And I love you. I do. Even if I don't know you, I know that by your participation in this, we all grow. We can make this world a more desirable place. We don't need to find success through hardship only to make hardship for others, so that the cycle can continue to make something as a greater atrocity as time goes on. We don't have to do that. We can create something so incredibly wonderful and meaningful. So with that, thank you for watching today. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. It's helpful, obviously, right? I do want to grow this into something significant. We are working on other platforms, and we're working just as far as the overall database of this, so that we can offer courses and different products and things like that. We do have a relationship course that is complete, so that you can have a more meaningful relationship without the challenges that come from the modern day relationships, the modern day dating. We also have fitness programs. Those are actually, you know, most of the people involved in this are actually fitness people. So that was an easy one, you know, especially the holistic background and the depth of study that the others have. It's been a wonderful combination. So if you have interest in that, and to do it in a very healthy, sustainable way, we have programs for you and testing to make sure we're doing the right things for you versus just doing stuff. So that's a maturity project. We want to be able to develop people. You know, we want to be able to develop you to have a more fulfilling and meaningful life. So, all right, with that, I am your host, Chad Everett Broshears. This is the Maturity Project. Share this video with a person in your life that you want to have a meaningful conversation with. Look, I know there's people out there that say just do it in silence. Do it on your own. The thing is that when you do that, it's because those individuals that are teaching people to do it, they don't know how to enroll people, and they don't know how to enroll themselves. The person that you enroll, that you would share this video with, they do not need to do what you're doing. You're enrolling them just so they understand you're up to something. Because if you don't tell them you're up to something, have you heard of ants in a bucket versus crabs in a bucket? If you haven't, simple. I know this is the outro of the video, but I'll add this. Crabs will, if you leave them in a bucket overnight, they'll almost always be in the bucket, every single one of them, in the morning. Because every time one would get up close enough to be able to get out, another would grab it and pull it back down, because it's trying to save itself. Ants, on the other hand, if you leave them all in the bucket, they'll form a ladder or a bridge to get themselves out. And when you come back in the morning, there really won't be anything left in there, because they've all gotten out. All the live ants are out because they've helped each other. If you don't enroll people in your life that you're up to something, they're going to wonder what's going on when you change your behavior, because any change to your behavior becomes something that they put attention on to a degree. And if they feel that that attention is warranted to be severe or very intense, they're likely going to really look at it and try to bring you back to what they knew you to be the most happiest, or at least the most stable in. They don't know that you're changing your behavior because you want to change things in your life. They're going to do what they can to try to bring you back to that place that you're trying to change. Even if what you're trying to change isn't that at its core, it's the scaffolding around it is what they're trying to put you back in. Meaning, there's other values versus the one thing that has you happy, right? Ice cream makes you happy. Well, if ice cream makes you happy, but you're trying to lose weight, it's a direct correlation. You want to watch out for that. They may be like, hey, look, I don't know what you're going through, but how about we go to the bar and hang out? Or why don't we go do that other thing that just kind of associates itself with other habits that are limiting your growth? If you enroll them, they'll know. They still may miss you. They still may bring it up, but you can bring it back up. Be like, hey, dude, I told you, man, I'm really trying to make some changes here, and I don't want to go out tonight because I'm going to get up tomorrow to go to church. Whatever, as an example for change. So enroll people. You don't have to enroll them so they help you. You just enroll them so they don't hinder you. It is a difference. You don't know. The person that you think may not help you actually may show up to help you. Maybe like, okay, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, you need to do that course. You're short on money, but if you waited a couple of weeks, you'd have enough. Here's a gift. Go do the course now. So that could happen. You don't know, but that's the beauty of enrolling people. But you also don't enroll them that they be any kind of support. The only goal you have when you enroll people should be just so they don't try to drag you back to who you were, try to support you back to the person you're trying to change, or the traits about you you're trying to change. That's it. If the others happen, then it's a bonus. So that you don't have somebody else you're dependent on and they drop off. That's another benefit of it, because hey, somebody shows up because they're excited, they love what you're up to, but their life does not make their support sustainable for whatever reason, emotion, money, attention, whatever. You don't get dependent on it, and then it wipes you out whenever you're waiting for them to come up, to show up, and they don't, and you don't have the resources because you haven't developed it yourself. They don't show up, and now you've got, oh shit, you're deflated. It's one more reason for you to stop the process. That's why you don't depend on them for that. And I'm not saying anything negative about people being supportive. Just don't become dependent on their support. Always be ready for any moment they may not be able to provide that. It's possible. And then it makes you more self-dependent. It doesn't make you distant, doesn't make you less of a friend, or whatever that relationship is, nothing like that. It's just called enrollment. Okay? So, all right, that's it for today. Thank you for bearing with this. I hope that you got something out of it. Put a comment in the comment section if you did. Subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this thing. Look, I'm not the most mature person in every single area. It's where wonderful people like yourself actually have the ability to contribute. If you want to contribute, you don't want to put a comment in the comment section, but you still like to throw something out there, or you'd like to take one of the courses. Or if there's a course that you're interested in or area you want to grow in, we could write a course for you if we're capable of it, which very likely. Just send us an email at yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. That is YOUR maturityproject@gmail.com, and we'll get something put together for you, or we can at least start the conversation. All right, that's it for today. Merry Christmas to you, to your family, from my family to yours. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We grow through what we go through. Yesterday's mistakes, tomorrow's opportunities for growth. All right, that's it. Let's get up to something. Let's get up to it together. I love you guys. See ya.